Thank you, Tammy. I feel like such a rock star with that introduction. It's very kind of you. Hi, everyone. Yeah, as Tammy said, my name's Arya. Joined with us today is my colleague David. We're going to be taking you through today this idea of how to get through a pandemic. And we're going to be looking at not all 100 of these, but some digital tactics that we put together around marketing resilience and growth and kind of what this looks like. Before we start, as Tammy said, there is that survey. As she mentioned, it's really useful for us because Dave and I we go through these and we kind of take a look at each one individually. It's really useful to get that feedback as to what we can do better. And as she said, there is a wonderful chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card as well. Now, I wanted to start today's webinar off in a rather, I guess, unconventional manner. And I wanted to start off by showing you guys a photo of me and my family. So there we are. And this isn't just to show you that, we didn't always used to wear masks all the time. But this is actually because I wanted to start this webinar off by telling you guys a story about me and my family and something that happened to us at the beginning of lockdown. And for us in the UK, that was like back in like June, around the time when this happened. And it was around then, it was my mom's birthday, so second on the left. And me and my sister, we got together on a Zoom call and we wanted to have a think about, like, I guess, what we could do for my mom for her birthday, what present we could get her. And around that time in June in the UK, that's when restaurants and shops and so on were starting to reopen again. We took a look and we realized that, like, it would be a really good idea if we could take my mom to her favorite restaurant. We thought it was going to be fitting. So we went and looked and took a look on the website whilst we're still on the Zoom call, and everything is looking good. Like the opening times are fine there. There's like a little feature that they have where you can book a table. And so whilst we're on this call, I just kind of put in my details, and we booked a table for like a couple of weeks time. And I gave them my email address, I gave them my phone number, no issues really. I even got the confirmation email and text and everything. So at this point, we think we're looking good. Fast forward 2 weeks later, we all get dressed up, which is a nice change for us in lockdown, and we drive 45 minutes across into London. And as you can probably tell from the way that I'm telling you the story, it didn't end well because when we got there, we found out that the restaurant was closed. And I think the key adjective I can use to describe my emotions at the time was disappointed and definitely frustrated as well. But I was out there thinking, this night hopefully isn't going to be ruined too much. We ended up going to McDonald's, my mom's idea. We had a great time, but it still got me thinking that this restaurant that we've gone to quite a few times before, I won't say who, but they are a well-known restaurant in London and quite a big and successful one, hadn't done a very good job with this. Like they had my email address, they had my name, my telephone number. They could have reached out to us on so many channels. They could have put a banner up on the website. They could have done so many different things that would have prevented this disappointment from occurring. Now, on the flip side, that same week, that was around the time in the UK that the barbers were also reopening. I got a text from my barber, I've been going to for a long time, and he texted me the day before, and he said, "Hey Aria, it's Rez. We're reopening tomorrow. Do you want to come in the morning for your usual?" And I texted back, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. I'll see you there." And he said, "Oh, okay. Just like a quick heads up, we've moved 2 doors down." And I said, "All right, okay." And I went the next morning, and yeah, lo and behold, he had moved 2 doors down, and he'd been busy through lockdown. Like he'd done a lot. So he'd completely, he'd moved 2 doors down to kind of like accommodate for an expansion, but he also then, um, I guess, prepped and got ready for what was coming up ahead. So he'd done things like he put a queuing system outside, like he put loads of chairs and like a little speaker and so on, so customers could wait safely outdoors. He had like barriers and screens up between the different barber stalls so people could, get their haircut safely. He was wearing a mask and he had like a face visor and stuff. And to top it all off, he even had an iPad where he was like capturing customers' contact details. And I asked him, I was like, Rez, like, what's this for? And he's like, oh, in case like we close, reopen again. He's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to be able to keep in touch with you guys. And I thought, wow, like this is so good. This guy has done such a good job of understanding what is needed. And I really started drawing parallels between these two businesses. And for me, Rez, bless him, he arrived not that long ago to a country without really a penny to his name. He didn't have a good grasp of English, and I don't really know how much business acumen he had from beforehand, but he's quite young, so maybe not too much. And somehow in the time he's been here, he's managed to get such a good grasp onto our business scenario and also what it means to be actually resilient and shape yourself up to get through what is coming up ahead. He'd done such a good job of the communication. He'd identified me, his high value loyal customer. He'd sent me a text message the day before, so he's reached out to me on the right channel at the right time with the right message, like tick, 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 tick. This guy is ticking all of these things the big marketing companies can only dream of doing. And I know that restaurants marketing team should have done, they should have done a better job of it. And I got really thinking about this. I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but I ended up coming to Dave and talking about it. And he let me run with this idea that when I really thought about it, I thought that for many of us, and particularly that restaurants marketing team, we should be more like Res, like we could have done a much better job of actually doing a lot of the things that he'd done in order to be like more agile and responsive, and most importantly, actually put together that resilience and that communication in. But in some ways, I can kind of understand because Rez has it a little bit easier. He's got a much smaller company. He knows his customers on a personal level much better. So in some ways, when you think about it, for those of us who've got millions of customers, it's actually a bit harder for us, and we need to think about how we do things differently. So then it really got to me thinking, like, okay, well, how do we actually then scale that up, and how do we be able to talk to customers on the million scale, the same way that Rez has done on his much smaller scale as well? And when I spoke about this with Dave, well, really, he kind of asked me, he was like, well, it actually depends on how people think of marketing. And I've heard one of my other colleagues mention this in the past before, and I completely agree with this idea. This metaphor that when I think of marketing, marketing to me is a lot like a sport. Some people are doing it to keep their heart rate down, the cholesterol low, keep their tummy tucked, and maybe see a good view of the park every now and then. But then on the other hand, there are some people who are doing it to win. These people are competing. For those people, they're doing it to bring home gold. They want to bring medals and trophies. Like it's like two totally different games to these people. And it doesn't really matter to me which camp you sit in when it comes to this. But if you are in that group of people that wants to win and take home gold, you got to really start thinking about how you optimize everything you do. That's the only way that you're going to win those medals. And as part of that, you have to start looking at all the tools that you have at your disposal. And when it comes to marketing, a lot of the times when we take a look at the tools that we have at our disposal, we end up looking at inevitably advertising. And in this sports metaphor, you can think of advertising in many ways, to me at least. It's a lot like a protein shake. This is the fuel for you to perform better. This is the supplement for your marketing strategy. But actually, many brands end up using advertising as a steroid instead. They just pump themselves full of it and hope for the best. And this, to me, like, just as steroids do in actual life, this has a lot of problems. Instead of actually being able to get like a holistic view, what it can happen if you're pumping yourself full of advertising, you can end up getting like a skewed view because it can actually start to mask some of the problems that you have in your marketing strategy. It can actually start hiding some of the issues that you have and maybe not allowing you to see that things aren't as optimal as they should be. And on the other hand, actually, it can go the total other way, and instead it can exacerbate some problems. Just the same way that steroids can end up blowing out your heart, this can end up causing lots of damage to your marketing strategy because I know we all saw those stories of like right at the beginning of lockdown, a lot of people were getting under a lot of heat because they were pumping out advertising, and a lot of customers started thinking that was inappropriate and so on. It was the wrong time to be talking about these things. And for me, that was an example of not understanding the times and what was changing and so on. And then this was an example of advertising starting to cause damage as well. And I think for many people, I guess for many businesses particularly, COVID has made them aware of how susceptible they are to these changes in real life, like how susceptible are and how reliant they were on advertising. And I guess instead, brands have realized that more so than ever, now is the time that they have such a strong need for better insights. And we went away and surveyed a bunch of our prospects and our current clients, and we asked them, what are the top three things that you wish you had before you went into this pandemic? And I think the overwhelming majority came back and said to us that they wish they had better insights before they went into this. And for me, this kind of actually made sense, and it really fit nicely into athletics metaphor because when you think of it, insights in many ways that's our Fitbits, that's our Apple Watches, these are our fitness trackers. This is the ability to basically get that critical data on our bodies, on our marketing, on our brands, and understand what is going on. Like, what are the changes that are happening? What is actually helping? What is hindering? What is going on, really? And it's being able to get that insights quickly. And I think, when we were looking at this, I think COVID has definitely shone a light on the fact that marketers potentially don't have as much insights immediately available to them as they would like. And it's definitely, a lot of cases where many teams have got, like big BI teams, and there ends up being that discrepancy in that delay in how fast the marketers are able to get these critical insights when it comes back to them and so on. And in the time, particularly around COVID, and what we've seen is that importance of being able to get this information and get the insights so quickly as well. At a time where everything's changing. And I think as well, like towards the beginning, there was a lot of talk originally around whether brands should or shouldn't be advertising. Or if you remember, like back at the beginning when things were starting to go into lockdown. And I was involved in quite a few discussions around that at the time. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, you know what, whether or not you, or even if you do decide that you want to start advertising right now and you want to continue doing that, you can't really do this unless you have these insights, because without this, what on earth are you going to actually be talking to your customers about? Things have changed so much. We can't rely on the gut feel that we've traditionally relied on for so long to actually just kind of like, I guess, feel what we think customers need to know right now. We need the data and we need the insights, and we need to have that woven into our marketing strategy so that we can be telling them the right message, the right time, the right place. But it's really that critical ability to understand what the changes are. We need this insight to be able to identify what the product demand changes are, what's rising and falling. We need to be able to identify our high value customers and so on. And I think if you're able to get on top of your insights and really build this through your marketing strategy, that's when you can really start to build the resilience into your marketing and then protect yourself for, God forbid, the next time anything like this ever comes again. And I think as well, to top it off with everything that we've got going on in the minute, I know in the UK this has been a big issue for us in terms of GDPR. We've really started to rely on the value of first-party data. It's so important, more so than ever. And I know you guys in the US don't have GDPR coming, but you do have that, I guess, global increased awareness of privacy. And I know you have some various different policies that may be coming into place. But really, all it shows is that right now, brands need to be getting as much value as possible out of their first party data. Even if this isn't a case where that's all you have, you need to start training yourselves up and understanding how to use this first party data reliably and how to really leverage it and get the most out of it as possible. And I think we're definitely, with such a changing and dynamic landscape coming up ahead, we can never be 100% sure what's around the corner next. The one thing is for sure, it's that the next 12 months is going to be a really challenging time for many businesses around the world. And for many marketing teams around the world, it's going to be all about getting customers the information they need when they need it. And each company is going to have their own interpretation of how to approach this, but every company is going to be dealing with the exact same fact, and that is the way we communicate with our customers must be more intelligent and more resilient than it ever has been before. So, you're probably wondering, Aria, where are you going with this? Well, where I'm actually going with this is that it leads us to the question, what does resilient look like? And I think in many ways, we can think of it a lot like an immune system. And businesses need to think about the tactics they can use to build their immune system up against the challenges ahead of us. And what we ended up doing here at MAP, we went away and we put together 100 tactics that we think are really useful to actually acquire, nurture, grow, and retain customers. And these are practical tactics. These aren't just theoretical ones where we think these are going to make a difference. These are practical tactics for you guys to go away, look at, and actually implement into your business. And what we've done is, my colleague Dave is about to join us any second now, and he's going to be taking you through, I think, the 7 or 8 tactics that he's picked out that we think really spell resilience. So, Dave, without any further ado, over to you.
Cheers, thanks for that, Aria. So yeah, as mentioned, we put together this collection of the 100 tactics, and I'm going to be taking you through a few of those, concentrating on, as Aria mentioned, 7 of them. And these are the ones that we think are really simple to apply and should offer some growth and some future resilience. When we think of this, we've actually split it out and split out the tactics into 4 different categories, ranging from acquire at one end, through nurture, grow, and then into retaining customers. And when you're thinking of your customers and their journey, you're going to want to start at this one end, acquiring, and then move through all these different steps to build that relationship. And as we mentioned, getting that ultimate goal of retaining them for as long as possible. I've also put a few examples in each of these sections. It's not an extensive list. A few of these we'll be actually covering off today. But as we mentioned, there's 100 of these. They're ready for you in our playbook. You're going to get access to that at the end. There's an online version which is really, really interactive. You can get into there and build out your own different tactics yourself. But for now, we mentioned it a couple of times, the main focus of today is how to build that resilience. And resilience isn't going to be achieved by applying one big tactic that's going to drastically alter all of your marketing. You're going to be able to achieve this by optimizing everything that you're doing. So building this out through a number of small improvements. Some of these might seem quite simple, but if you work through them and apply as many of those as possible as you can, you're going to be in a stronger position regardless of how things change again in the future. You might actually be applying some of these. So when we go through today and you are doing some of these, if you are, it might be worth thinking about how you can improve the way that you're doing them. Great, so we'll get into the first one then, and this is number 12 in our 100, and it's data capture. This tactic is something that I know a little bit about because before I started working in my current role, I was part of the campaigns team here at MAP. And whilst I was working for that team, the biggest thing I took away is that companies still aren't making the most out of capturing their data for their potential customers. It might seem like a really simple concept. You collect your customer data, you build out profiles, you're more targeted with your messages, but there's still lots and lots of opportunities to improve how you're doing all of that. Let's start with why this is important. If you've been into a restaurant recently, you might have seen a sign like this. I've been out a few times since the UK lockdowns eased, and every time I go into a restaurant now, you need to give them your name, either a mobile number or an email address. And this is a brand new type of data collection that wasn't around 6 months ago, and a brand new source of data that could be used to actually tap into this and start utilizing it. Now, before we get into this tactic, we're not saying that you should just go and instantly use all of this data that you can collect when people come into your shop or come into a restaurant without getting the right consent. But in some cases, you can use the data capture process as a new opportunity to ask people to opt into your marketing messages. So remember, even though US data regulation might not be as strong as GDPR, it's always best to have that marketing consent tick box if you wanted to send people those kind of messages after. Okay, first we can concentrate on the in-store aspects of data collection. What I've been experiencing now is that people are quite willing to part with some of their data to get a better experience, and that can be online or in person. People know that if they're not giving away that personal information, they're not going to get access to certain places, a bit like those restaurants. And it seems as though that willingness is going to continue into other aspects of life too. And if we think about the rules surrounding wearing masks in shops, it's not a massive leap to think that the same rules of leaving personal data when you enter shops won't soon be applied in those type of businesses too. If this is the case, you need to be thinking about the most efficient ways to enhance that whole process. We mentioned that hospitality sector has really gone in with the QR codes and they use those a lot. This is a really, really simple and quick way of getting your customers to get to those targeting landing pages so they can fill out that data on their own. And that's going to be a really simple source of getting people onto your site, filling out the legal data they need to, and then also maybe giving you that consent so you can start messaging them later. If you want to go down the same route as Aria's Barber Res, you can also think about in-store terminals as a way of capturing that data. If you have staff on a shop floor, they can be inputting that data themselves. Or another tactic that people are using a lot at the moment is e-receipts. So I'm at the till, I'm making a purchase, I give you my email address, you've also captured the data, and this is going to have that knock-on effect of letting you attribute all of the offline sales and the actual in-store data back into your online activity as well. If you don't have the ability to access people in store, then being online, collecting data on the website is going to be key. This isn't just about showing someone a pop-up the first time they visit your site and getting their email address, even though that's definitely something that you should do, but there is a lot more that can be to it. It's going to be more about capturing data about how people are interacting with your website and their assets. So monitoring them individual, different actions, seeing where they're dropping off, not completing the action you want, probably making a purchase is what you want to try and push them or guide them towards. And if you manage to monitor all of this different behavior on site and use that data properly, you can turn those anonymous browsers into paying customers. So this is actually something that Map can help with. Through the Map Cloud, firstly, capturing data in landing pages can be all created within our platform. So building out those pages to collect that zero-party data. And also, once we've collected that data, joining it up to a larger group of information about your customers. So matching those different sets of information into one unified place, CDP. And that's what we've got here in Map Cloud. It doesn't matter how you bring in the data into the platform, whether that's API, batch upload, landing pages, integrations, you'll have this centralized place to visualize it all to. And this is our unified customer profile inside the platform. And this is something that a number of our large brands, especially in the UK, people like the Entertainer Toy Shop and Argos, they're making use of all these features within Map. And it doesn't matter the size of your business, you can definitely make use of these different kinds of features too. So it's really going to enhance that process for you. Okay, that was the first tactic. Next we can move on to number 14, product analytics. You might have seen these pictures. This is Regent Street in London a couple of months ago. I'm sure you've got exactly the same pictures of US shopping streets, completely empty, deserted, down to the fact that people's buying habits are completely changing. Another key to building the long-term resilience that we're looking at today is keeping on top of these changes and reacting as soon as you can. For product analytics specifically, that's going to be making sure you know which products are driving the most interest and which are selling at a higher rate than normal. When you've got periods of growth, it's really important that you're capitalizing on it, using all the data that you have available to optimize the number of sales that you're going to be able to make. All of that information can then be used to enhance each of your customers' experiences too. So that could be showing them tailored products that they might be interested in, but also could be used for things like promoting products that are performing well with customers who have a similar profile to them. So using all of those deep analytics to build this out. Another common issue you see is when you get a surge in sales for a specific product, something that happened quite a lot during the beginning of lockdown and is still happening in certain sectors at the moment, you can be left at products that are constantly going out of stock, not available to buy on the site. And if you have paid media campaigns driving traffic towards these, that's going to be at a cost to you. And when people actually click through, land on a page where it's not available to buy, you can be actually losing a lot of money in that whole process. So it's really important that you're on top of all these different product analytics to make sure we know which products are selling well, which products are out of stock, and where we can actually enhance that whole experience for customers. Again, this is something that Map can help with. And in our analytics dashboard, you can monitor all these changes and begin to spot those trends as soon as they occur. So making sure that you're right on the front as these different changes are happening, so you can react and make sure that your website and all your different online advertising is all in order. Okay, great. So a couple of these down. Next one, we've got number 75, VIP content. When we were planning this webinar, Aria said to me, nothing says resilience more than loyalty. And I think that point's really important. If you can keep your most loyal customers happy, it's going to help you in all the good times and in the bad times as well. And these are going to be one of your most critical groups of customers, as they can sustain your business more than anyone else. A knock-on effect here is increasing your customer base through referrals. And by keeping your core customers happy, those VIP customers, they're going to be a lot more willing to spread the word about you. Online social proof is something we're going to talk about a bit later, but social proof through word of mouth can again really help with building that resilience. At its most basic form, this means that you need to be personalizing your messages. And some idea here could be rewarding loyal customers with exclusive offers or content. So if we're thinking about the content side, giving behind the scenes access is something that works really well, or content that normally be behind a paywall, that's going to help you build that relationship, giving them something that not everyone else has access to. For an e-commerce focused business, Simple things such as getting access to sales early, that can be really effective too. Maybe giving people a chance to get a discount before anyone else shouldn't really cost you anything and should allow them to feel really rewarded. You need to be making sure when you're doing this that those people are treated differently though. A lot of people fall into the trap of just saying, right, we're going to give our VIP customers a little bit more discount than everyone else. And yes, that might be working, but there might be some more to it. And if you are thinking about discount levels as something to give to your VIP customers, you need to be making sure that you're doing that right. I've been signed up to a few different email lists, and even a couple of days after I've signed up, you get an email saying, hey, David, welcome to your personal sale. And whilst that could be a valid tactic, the company didn't know anything about me to make that sale personal. And for all I know, it was actually no different to everyone else's personal sale too. And the last thing you want to do is find out that one of your high spenders are getting the same discount than everyone else in this personal sale, because if they feel like they're one of your loyal customers, someone who's been shopping you for years, and they're treated in exactly the same way as someone who just signed up yesterday, that's going to have a really detrimental effect to how they envisage you. Oh, again, we can see how Map can help out with this. So the first thing you need to do is actually understand the frequency that your VIP customers are purchasing. And that's going to be done through looking at different dashboards and finding different insights through our Map Intelligence product. Keeping your finger on the pulse, seeing how these customers are interacting, that could be a precursor to how the other casual shoppers might fluctuate and interact too. So it's always really good to be able to keep on top of how these different groups of your customers are engaging. Within Map, we also have this powerful segmentation builder. This is going to allow you to actually find, once you've targeted those VIP customers and you found them, be able to actually start sending them messages as well. So building out segments of our targeted VIPs, sending them messages, sending them specific content, making sure that you're engaging with them through all those different channels. Okay, great. Next one we'll be looking at is number 82. This is cross-channel campaigns. Communicating well with the customers has always been key. I'm sure actually we're all in agreement now, more than ever, this is actually really, really important. We've mentioned how people's shopping habits are changing, and with the shift to online, that means more and more devices are being used. So getting the right message to people fast is going to be really, really important. And there's definitely much more to that than just email. Interestingly, there's actually some studies at the beginning of the pandemic that said mobile phone usage to make shopping purchases was down by around 9%. And I don't think many people would have predicted that around 6 months ago, that there'd be such a significant downswing in that usage. And I'm sure we're going to assume that those numbers are rebounded. They probably actually already have by now. But it just shows that you need to be sure that you're connecting across all the available channels, because if something like this happened again and you saw a certain downturn in a certain channel or a device, you need to be able to react to that as soon as possible. The key to this is actually communicating across as many channels, as many different touch points as possible. So we've mentioned some of the channels before: SMS, email, mobile push, online advertising. If you can keep those touch points while keeping the message consistent, you're going to be able to perform really, really well and get that message across. That's going to help dramatically increase the likelihood that someone's going to see the content, and also should lead to more conversions driven by that single campaign, but really that message that you're going to try and get across to them. This again is where Map can help you out. We're looking at our cross-channel campaign builder, our automation whiteboards here. This is where you can build out omni-channel campaigns, utilizing all those channels that we keep mentioning, building those into larger workflows, being able to treat your customers differently, taking them down different channels depending on how they're interacting. This is going to be the central hub for actually creating these cross-channel campaigns. Also, analyzing each of the channels' performance. So once we're sending out the message, you need to be able to easily work out which of those channels are performing best, how we're going to be able to optimize those different campaigns in the future. And this part of Map Cloud and Map Intelligence is going to help you do that. It's going to bring all that information back into one place and link all those different channels together so you can see the different journeys. Great, number 23, social proof. We've talked about this uncertainty in life at the moment, and it's really human nature to wait to see what other people are doing before you actually go ahead and do it for yourself. Knowing that people are going to be venturing out into shops and restaurants, that can give you the confidence to go and do it as well. And I've had this experience with some of my family recently. Some of them have been a lot more worried than others, but you can see the effects of this social proof, this social working on them, and see their minds actually changing. So I actually recently came back from a week in Cornwall in the south of the UK. And when I was up there, I was sending updates to my family group chat all the way throughout the trip. Pictures every couple of days. And when they were seeing these, my sister, who was definitely by far the most concerned out of everyone, was actually looking to book a trip for herself. And that's a big change for what she was saying actually just a few weeks before. It seems as though a lot of people are actually having the same idea. They're seeing other people go out, they're seeing how they're interacting in certain places, certain areas, and they're wanting to go there for themselves. And this is an effect that's actually changed a lot in the last 6 months, where yes, before people were actually using this idea of seeing people online, seeing how they're interacting with certain areas, but it can actually help you get over this worry as well, and this idea that things have changed in lockdown, bring people back to normal. If we're thinking about implying the idea of social proof into digital marketing, we're going to try and show how many people are interacting with specific content or products. It's exactly the same concept though. If people are uneasy about buying these certain products, the knowledge that other people are buying is going to give them that confidence. We can see these small banners on the screenshot here, basically showing people how many people have viewed or how many people had bought a product recently. This is going to be done online, commonly in an email as well, and it's there to increase the urgency and to accelerate that buying funnel. Definitely something that Matt can help out with. Again, we can see our email builder here, and this is where you can create all your different messages, and obviously in this case the emails. And when you're in here, you just drag and drop all the different elements together, and one of these could be your social proof elements. So it's a really, really simple tactic to implement. Once you have this set up, you drag in the block whenever you want to use it, you choose which products that you're going to show, and it'll instantly give you how many people have viewed or purchased those products in a past window. So really, really simple thing to implement, and it's going to have a lot of effectiveness as well. Okay, next one, best time to send. This is number 43. Aria was talking a bit about this earlier too, the fact that campaigns are set by gut feel. We think that we know a certain time of day performs well, and that's when we schedule all of our sendouts. And once we've decided that's the right time, we lock it in and never change it. It's set there, and it's always going to be that time forever. And even if actually when you came up with this time the first time around and you did some testing to get there, are you actually checking that it's still working as well as you thought it was? You need to be able to prove that that time is still valid. Things change, people's habits are changing definitely at the moment. So if you do have this time in place that you always use, definitely worthwhile going back and checking actually, is that the right time to be sending you messages at the moment? The idea here is that you want people to be seeing as many of your messages as possible. When that comes to email, the higher up that message is in someone's inbox, the more likely they are going to open it. So if you can get your message into someone's inbox just as they actually open up their phone or open up their desktop, then you're going to dramatically increase the chance that they'll be able to actually read it and ultimately get through to your website. And if it's going to be make a purchase or it's going to be read your content, they're going to be there to actually do that. This is where MapCloud can help as well. So two things here. First one's going to be through our campaign dashboards. This is where you can analyze all the data and find trends yourself. And that's going to be through things like best open time and click time. So you're going to be able to spot the different trends. Great thing about this part of the platform is that you can change the date range that you're analyzing. So you can go in and pick out a specific week or a specific couple of days, any time in the past, and actually analyze how people are engaging then. So a great way to actually see how people are actually opening and clicking on your emails now in comparison to beginning of the lockdown, in comparison to before that as well. And maybe there we can see actually when these trends change, it's going to give you a way to actually start changing all your different emails in the future. If you want to automate that, we have an option in our platform for that too. We call this our best send out time. Inside our whiteboards or whenever you're sending out an email, you can turn this on. And this uses AI to actually choose the best time for you. So it uses a year's worth of data, 52 weeks. And each of those weeks is going to be used to analyze the best opens and clicks. So it's going to find a trend when I'm more consistently opening. So if I'm opening at 7 a.m. in the morning, I'm clicking on that same time, it's going to start categorizing me as a 7 a.m. in the morning time. And the great thing about that is every time you send out an email, you turn on best send out time. it's going to send it to me at the next 7 a.m. So if I'm highly engaged at that point, and that's when I open up my phone or open up my browser, that's when the message is going to hit my inbox. It's going to be higher up, and therefore I'm going to be a lot more likely to actually open that message. Number 98, this is churn prevention. And now we're moving through those 4 stages into the retention. You've done the hardest part here to gain a customer, and you don't want to lose them. If that customer's on your website at the moment and they're considering a purchase, you need to be thinking about how you can stop them from leaving and going to one of your competitors. So you need to know exactly where your customers are in their own personal journeys. If they're about to churn, if they're about to make that purchase, you need to be able to know that. And if you can take one of those customers who are on the edge and talk to them in real time or alter their normal messages, then you can bring them back and turn them into an active customer. These churn prevention campaigns can be a really, really effective way to actually retain those customers that might be about to stop engaging with your brand and actually go to one of those different competitors that you might have. We can actually think of this in real time as well. And when we look at that, we're going to be considering a user in session on a website. And when this happens, their journey is probably going to fluctuate a lot. They're really engaged, they're looking at a product, they move off, they look at a different tab on their browser, they go and get themselves a drink, they come back. Their journey to actually look to convert or maybe even churn could look like one of these wiggly lines. And at any of these stages, when they're really engaged and distracted, you need to be able to know that. So by tracking this through the AI in our platform, you can predict when that person's going to either convert or churn. And if we can layer this on top of all that existing historical data that we have about each of your customers, we can get really targeted with our segmentation. And we can see some of those on the screen now. So using this in-session churn, layering that on with how people are behaving, where they're moving in different tabs, the value of all the different products they're looking at, taking all these different pieces of data, building them into one group of people, one segment, we can then start talking to these people in a very personalized way. When we're thinking about that as well, we can break your customers down into multiple audiences. This is just a simple example of splitting it out into 5 different groups, 5 different maybe remarketing lists. So finding these different people, how they're engaging, deciding that if we wanted to retarget these people across display advertising, how much should we spend to bring them back? And you can see for each of these different groups, we have a different spend on the right-hand side. So it's ranging from people, users who are more likely to buy, maybe we'll spend $1 trying to bring those back to site. Users who are possibly going to buy or have a small chance, we actually want to give them a little bit more spend. So they're less likely to buy if we put a little bit more towards them, more likely to bring them back to actually make the purchase. Underneath that, we can see these users who are unlikely to buy. And because we've split them out into a low profitability and a high expected profitability, we can decide again what to do with those. The unlikely to buy and low profitability, we might decide, right, we don't need to bring these people back to site. It's probably going to be too expensive for us. So we'll completely remove those from the advertising. And for the other group, yes, they're unlikely to buy, but maybe if we tried a small spend, we might be able to bring them back. They've got a high expected profitability, so it could be worthwhile actually getting them back to site. Another thing that we can do in MapCloud is actually use our RFM models. Quite similar to what we saw in the stage before, this is going to actually automate all of the data in the system to categorize our customers into one of these 6 different groups. And once you have these different groupings, you're going to be able to decide exactly how to engage with them. So previously in the last step, we were talking about display advertising, but you can use any of these groupings of people, any of these segments to actually start sending a message across all of those channels we've talked about today too. So email, SMS, mobile push. If you find your valuable churning customers in the RFM model built into our platform, then again, you can go straight into the engagement part of our hub and you can start sending messages to those people. Great, so we covered off those 7 tactics that I was talking about, spanning from the acquire stage into the nurture, the grow and the retain. But outside of the tactics, there's a lot of other things that you can be doing too. And if you're trying to build that post-COVID resilience, the best thing that we think you can do are some of these. So maybe improving your customer insights, finding out in real time exactly what those core group of customers, those ones that you really want to talk to, are doing. That's going to be key. Also, going back and fixing the basics. So even though you might have some of these tactics in place, or you might have a lot of other tactics in place, there's more than likely ways that you can actually start improving all of those. So it's worthwhile going back and actually analysing everything you're doing and working out what can be improved. And also things like enhancing your digital presence, improving how your brand is perceived across all the different channels that you may be communicating on, sharing a consistent message. That's going to actually help how people start perceiving you. So those are some of the different things that we think that, as well as the tactics, these can actually really help at the moment. Okay, so before I pass you back to Aria, I just want to give you a quick overview of the key modules in the Map Cloud software. We've been actually picking a few of these out and we've seen our screenshots today. First one we'll look at is Map Acquire. This is our module for collecting all of that rich online data. It allows you to then build profiles on all your existing customers, and then allows you to start also targeting the anonymous browsers. So the ones that you don't know, you can start targeting those through online advertising networks. Map Engage is where we configure and send out all the different messages. So all the key channels that I keep on mentioning, that's where this is built and actually then sent out to. And we also have Map Intelligence. This is where we can gain all those rich insights that are going to then be able to power all the campaigns. So finding out how people are behaving, finding out their past shopping habits, how they're engaging on each of the different channels, using that to then take those insights, turn it into action. So finding those really important bits of information and then start talking to each of your key customers based on that too.
Great. Thank you, Dave. That was as excellent as ever. I hope everyone's found those ones that we've picked out of the 100 to be useful. As I mentioned, I don't think we were ever going to go through all 100 of them today. But what we have instead is this playbook that we put together contains all 100 of these tactics, and we've got a website, improveyour.marketing, there in the bottom right hand corner, where you can go on and actually create an account and start picking out through all of these different 100 tactics that you like the look of and you want to use, pick them, prioritize them, and then even share them on with the rest of your business if you want to use this as like a blueprint to start actioning on. We've also given you guys the space in there to add your own custom tactics if you want, if you find something that's not on the list. So we're really hoping, we've seen a lot of brands who've been picking this up and using this as basically a way of collaborating and bringing together their teams, whilst also having this source of ideas that they can go through. So we're also going to be sending you out, after this, we're also going to be sending you out the PDF version as well, if you really want to maybe print it out or just have it on your computer. So you have both options to basically take a look at. And of course, before we leave you, I have to again mention the survey. We hope you found this really useful. We hope, there's a lot of stuff in here that you guys have been able to take away, and it's practical advice. If you have any feedback for us, please let us know in the survey. It is quite short, and as I said, or as Tammy said rather, there is a chance for a couple of people to win a $100 Amazon gift card as well through this. Now, I can see quite a few people have asked a few questions. We're probably not going to get a chance to go through all of these, but Dave, should we go through a couple of the ones I can see through here? I can read out the first one I can see.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So the first one that we've got here that I can see is this person has basically asked which of these we think is the most efficient. I think is what they're saying out of all of the tactics. Dave, is that something you want to help with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I'm thinking about efficient, I'm also thinking about what's going to be the most useful over time as well. There's always a massive push to make the most out of the data that you've got. And I think this idea of capturing data, capturing the zero-party data, and maybe utilizing more first-party data, that's going to be key. If you know that someone's actively giving you information about themselves, if they're telling you their own preferences and what they want you to tell them, the different marketing that they want to receive, that's going to be your fastest and easiest way to actually start gaining the trust of those customers and actually building on what they're doing. So obviously trying to turn those into repeat customers as well. So I think that the idea around data capture, quite a large concept, but you can break it down to a lot of smaller, easy to apply different tactics. So thinking about how you're capturing data online, is there a way that you can get more information about your browsers that you can then start using to send them more targeted messages? And if you have the ability of having in-person locations such as stores, having people in there collecting that data finding out a little bit about them and how they're actually starting to go back out to shop. Using that data as a larger way of actually starting your marketing, but also being able to relate that back to an individual is going to be key as well. Why not use all the information that they're telling you in the store to start their different email or different SMS campaigns that are working really well too. So yeah, I think that would be definitely the best one to start implementing.
Cool, thank you, Dave. There's one other question here that I think we'll go through. It's actually two. So Simon has asked if we're going to be going through any more of the tactics, and also if we could explain how the best time to send feature works.
Yeah, definitely. So we're not going to be going over any more of the tactics today, although obviously you can get into the improveyour.marketing website and find out all of those yourself. Obviously, if there's any in there that you want to talk about any more, it's definitely available to contact us. We'll be able to talk you through any of those. The best time to send feature, the AI in the platform. So in a little bit more detail, every time we send out an email to someone and they open it or they click on a link, we're constantly monitoring that. So we're keeping that information stored. And we do that over a complete year. So by storing the data over a complete year, we can analyze when each individual is opening and clicking on those messages. And what we do is make 52 weeks ago less important than last week. So sort of front loading how important it is by the most recent time. And it's basically then just looking at each of those individuals and saying, when do they normally open the message? If we've got a couple in the afternoon, but most of them are very early in the morning, then the system utilizes all that data to work out that the morning's the best time to send them. And because it's constantly changing and self-optimizing, this is going to be updating over time as well. So it's always going to give you the best time for each individual. So this isn't working as the best time to send out for the whole system. It's actually working on that one-to-one level for each of your contacts.
That's great. Thank you, Dave. There's one last question here. I'm not sure if Dave, if this is one we're going to be able to answer on the call. There's quite a lot to it, but it just says, any tips for best practice on multi-channel campaigns? Anything in particular, or if not, we can come back to you separately on this one.
Yeah, I think that's such a large question, and maybe it'd be really good to have that question later or offline, just because there's so much that can go into those multi-channel campaigns that maybe there's not enough time to go over it even in the next sort of 5-10 minutes.
Cool. Excellent. Well, there's a couple more questions left, but I think we can get back to they're quite meaty questions that we've got here, guys. I think we can come back to you guys offline, so we'll get in touch with you separately on this one. That's everything from us. I just want to say thank you so much for, I guess, taking the time to hear what we have to say. We hope you've really found this useful. And just a reminder again about the survey. Any feedback is really appreciated. We do go through it and take a look at what your thoughts are on this. So as one person mentioned, if we're looking to see any other tactics in the future, please take a look through the survey and let us know what sort of things you'd like to know on.
Great, thanks guys. Really, yeah, thanks for everything. I hope everybody has a great day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tammy. Take care.
Bye-bye.